Alright, January 10th out here today. Just checking up on some of our late season food plots here. There's just deer sign everywhere. Anyways, it's kind of interesting to see this. So we got behind me here probably, I believe this is just a little over a half acre of soybeans, close to 3/4 of an acre. And behind me here was probably just shy of a half acre of corn. And then I got a few brassicas mixed amongst everything. Look at this big softball sized turnip here that they're starting to eat. Anyways, the corn is pretty much 90% gone. And the beans, as you can tell, there's a lot of them left. So, I mean, I always thought the deer preferred the soybeans over corn. But I guess not. I'm not sure what they really prefer more in the wintertime, corn or soybeans. I know corn obviously has more carbohydrates and the beans have more protein, but both are good. But when you got them side by side, it's kind of interesting to see what they actually prefer. And there's definitely more deer tracks in the corn here, and more deer sign in general. There's deer sign out there out in the beans, but as you can tell here on the edge, these beans closer to the corn are more browsed than the beans in the middle. And I haven't been on that side of the plot yet, but it's just kind of interesting that up here in this corner right here, the beans are almost gone right here in this little corner right next to the corn. So kind of interesting to see that. I'm gonna head over to another big food plot right after this and show you what that one looks like. That one has beans and corn as well. But yeah, going up and down these rows here, a lot of this stuff is already gone. I mean, look at this. There's deer sign everywhere. A lot of these tracks look pretty small, so it's probably just a lot of does and fawns in here. I know there's a few bucks that made it through. Nothing big made it through this year though, unfortunately. Look at that, how they just gnaw right at it. Strip it right off. That's a good sized deer right there. I mean, it's just annihilated. There's hardly anything left. Right here's some that's still left, but like I said, probably 80% of this is gone already. Here we are over in the beans right now. I mean, you can tell there's deer tracks in here, but definitely less deer tracks in the beans here. And there's just tons of food here left. Right here's like a trail kinda. Follow this for a little bit. I mean, there's this deer trail, but look at that. No deer sign. Some tracks right here, but yeah, it's just amazing. I seriously thought the deer really preferred the beans over the corn. Look at that trail. I got a trail camera right over there. This one cuts right across the food plot here. But yeah, it's just pretty obvious to me here. Up here in this corner, the beans are pretty thin over there, because that's a major area that they come out on. Right over here in this corner is where my dad shot that, I think it's a 5-year-old buck, 4 to 5-year-old buck. He came out middle of gun season. And yeah, I sprinkled a few brassicas in here too, and look at that. They found them. Turnips and brassicas. Well, yeah, overall, definitely less. I mean, over there in the corn, it was like every step. I mean, the ground is just covered in deer tracks. Up here in this corner, this is where that buck was shot, and you can definitely see they're thinner, because this is where they kind of come out on. But yeah, this food should hopefully last until March. That would be really nice. A few deer beds along the edge. That's where you're going to find a shed, probably right along the edge here, if something does drop in here, because they come out and munch around for an hour, and then they bed down for multiple hours. So that's why you normally never really find sheds in the actual food plot. They'll be on the edges, because that's where they bed at night. Alright, I'll take you over to the other food plot here in just a little bit. Well, here we are on the other food plot now. These beans up here are pretty much empty. And the beans just wrap around the corn on the other side here. Quite a few beans left here too on this side. Just on the top here is where they're really eaten. Anyways, the corn here is a lot more corn left. Just simply because we've planted more here, so that makes sense. But they're getting in here good too. This is one of the areas I tried putting in like 2 rows of beans, and then like 2 rows of corn, and then some more beans right here. It worked, but I mean, I don't really see a need to do it, so I probably won't do it too much in the future. Look at this. This is just pounded. It's like a dead bird right here. Anyways, look at that. Just tracks everywhere. I'll put up some of the trail camera pictures from the end at the end of the video. I don't think anything has dropped yet, but it's a little early. Maybe a couple weeks from now, I think stuff will start dropping. Look at that, just pounded with tracks. And once again, there's quite a bit gone, but you can see this area, I double planted the corn. Like here's a 38-inch row. That's what the planter's set up for. And double planting, it produces just as good. These cobs in this thicker section are just as big as the cobs over here. Pretty good size one right there. If anything, they might be a hair smaller, but in reality, you got so many more plants per acre, so that's the best way to maximize your yield. And one thing I have noticed is the deer, they don't like to walk down these really tight rows, probably especially bucks, because they're going to get caught up on this stuff. So if I do this in the future, I'll probably double plant about 75 to 80% of the field and leave a few wider lanes like this, because these wider lanes, they just pound them down. Anyways, I'll check back with you in a couple weeks with another update, probably during February, closer to shed season. Overall, this is probably about 3/4 to almost an acre of standing corn. Where we are, we don't really have insane deer numbers, but it may look like it with all the tracks. But we're able to plant like 1 acre food plots, and that'll, in total, I think we have 3 acres of winter food mixed. That'd be brassicas, corn, and beans all combined is 3 acres, and that's enough to last us hopefully until last year. We still had a little bit of corn in this field left over, and a little bit of corn in the other field left over. So I'm sure we're gonna have enough food to make it all the way to about mid-March, prime shed drop. And this field here definitely has more corn. You can see all the ones with the brown silk, those haven't even been touched yet. So there's a full bunch in here that haven't even been touched as I go down the rows. I said about 80% of the other cornfield was gone. This field's probably only about 50% gone. And then I got beans over there. And I'll take you up there. That little bean plot right on the top of the hill there is completely gone. Was all brassicas. It's hard to tell because I planted them a little bit late, so they didn't get that big. You can see a stalk right here. And they're pawing around and digging in there a little bit. Look at this turnip right here. Boom, that's a softball sized turnip. And like I said, they munch these, like there's another turnip, but this forage rape and kale, they munch this stuff down to a single stalk. This plant right here was probably about knee high with leaves, you know, about a foot long, and I don't see any of that anymore. Right here's a leaf or whatever, but they really chew these up good too. Look at that. Just a bunch of stems sticking through the snow. And then once again, this is the side the deer mainly come in from. So that's why these beans are pretty much empty here. These are the first ones they hit on their way in. Just look at all these deer tracks. I thought that was a shed over here. Tons and tons of deer tracks coming from the woods here. I don't like coming out here spooking all the deer away too often, so I'm just gonna come up here and take a quick peek and get out. I'm sure there's does bedded in our woods, or maybe they were bedded, they're probably gone now. Look at all that deer sign. That is incredible. Like, you can't even take a step without stepping on a deer track. And this field right here is just like an eighth an acre of beans, but as you can tell, they grew and they produced well. It's not like they were overbrowsed. And they pretty much just annihilated these things. And they were gone by middle of December, I think, when I was up here. It was just like shortly after gun season, they were pretty much getting pretty well picked over. So I think next year this will either be brassicas or soybeans again. It's too dry and hard to plant corn here. If I put soybeans here, I gotta do it no-till. It's just too hard to get the... This is actually a pretty steep hill, I don't know if you can tell or not. But it's just too hard to get the corn planter up here and disc and everything. Looks like a fresh rub over here. But as I was saying, I got winter rye seeded in here at like 200 pounds per acre or whatever. Can't really see it. Let me just a second. Yeah, right here it is. So that stuff will all come back like crazy fast in the spring, and I can just broadcast my beans in here, crush all the rye down, spray it, and have a nice stand of soybeans next year as well. You know, it's crazy. 2, 3, 4 years ago, when we weren't really planting food plots, this particular area of our property didn't even have barely a single deer track on it. And now look at this. It's definitely a fresh rub right there. That wasn't there, you know, November and December. Oh, look at that, there's some blood up here. It's just another little bird or rabbit that got tore up by the coyotes, probably. I don't know, it's hard to tell what that is. Looks like rabbit hair. Deer beds right there. Probably nighttime bedding. Look at all this. Honest to God, there wasn't any deer tracks here ever in the snow in the wintertime a couple years ago. So this buck right here, I know definitely made it through gun season. We had a lot of pictures in December of him, and he just kind of disappeared here in January, which is kind of weird considering all the food we have. I think he's only a 2-year-old. He's a really nice looking 2-year-old, maybe a 3, but like I said, I don't recognize him. And this is another 2-year-old that we just had disappear here in January as well. I don't know where they go. We have all the food in the world, but they still leave, which is kind of weird. And this is another 2-year-old. He's still hanging around quite a bit. Got a lot of pictures of him recently. He's got a kicker on the one side. He might turn into something really cool in the future. This buck's still hanging around. He's again a 2-year-old this year as well, probably. And this right here is a 3-year-old buck. I know for sure because I got 2 years of pictures of him. He's just a really tall, goofy-looking buck. I found one of his sheds last year, and he's still hanging around quite a bit. Here's a more recent picture of him in the deep snow here. So I might have a chance of finding one of his sheds this year as well. And here's that G2 buck with a split. I mean, with the kicker on the G2. He's hanging out with and sparring with a few 1.5-year-olds here. And here's a few daytime pics, not a ton. This next buck right here, this one, I had velvet pictures of him all summer long, and he kind of just disappeared during the fall, and a few pictures during the rut, and that was it. And then he just showed back up here in January, so that's kind of cool. And this right here, this is the only buck that I have pictures of that has dropped one side so far, so it's cool to see that. And this right here, this is the first of 3 new bucks that just showed up. This one right here, I might have a few pictures of during the rut, but I can't really recall. I know there was a buck that looked similar to him, but I don't know if it's the same one. And this next buck is definitely a new buck. I've never got any pictures of him all year long. Maybe last year, but I just don't recognize him. But none so far this year until now. These late season food sources just sucking the deer like crazy. This is probably a 3-year-old. I would probably shoot him if I had a chance. And this one This is the king of bucks right here. This is the biggest buck I've had pictures of in like 2 years, maybe 3 years, off of any cam, any property. And I just pray to God he sticks around this winter and I could maybe find a shed off him. I don't expect to kill him because he's got to be at least pretty mature, smart deer. Look at that. He's got some like extra palmation and extra points going on. Just an absolute king of a buck. I can't believe something like that could just show up in my food plot just because he's hungry. That's just crazy. Well, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and all these fresh new pictures. So thanks for watching. See you next time.